Dr. Elena Vasquez wiped the sweat from her forehead as she stood before the massive excavation site. The harsh Martian sun beat down through the thin atmosphere, but her excitement made her forget the discomfort. After 3 months of careful digging, they had finally uncovered something that would change everything humanity thought it knew about the galaxy. The object buried beneath the red soil wasn't natural. It stretched nearly 200 meters in length, its surface made of a material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange symbols covered its hull, symbols that didn't match any known language or civilization in the galactic database. "Elena, you need to see this," called Dr. James Chen from the far end of the excavation. His voice carried an urgency that made her heart race. She hurried across the site, her boots crunching on the rocky Martian surface. James stood beside what appeared to be an opening in the craft's hull. The entrance had somehow activated when their scanning equipment had passed over it, revealing a passage that glowed with a soft, blue light. "The energy readings are off the charts," James said, checking his tablet. "But it's not dangerous. Actually, it seems to be inviting us in." Elena stared at the entrance. As the lead xenoarchaeologist for the Mars Colonial Authority, she had discovered many artifacts from ancient civilizations. But this was different. This craft was older than anything they had ever found, older than the earliest known spacefaring races. "Get the team ready," she said. "We're going in." Within an hour, Elena and her 5-person team had suited up and prepared their equipment. The craft's entrance remained open, the blue light pulsing gently like a heartbeat. As they approached, their instruments detected a breathable atmosphere inside the vessel. "That's impossible," muttered Dr. Sarah Kim, their atmospheric specialist. "This thing has been buried for thousands of years, maybe longer. How can it still have life support?" Elena stepped through the entrance first. The moment her feet touched the floor inside, panels along the walls began to glow with that same blue light. The corridor ahead stretched into darkness, but, as they walked forward, more lights activated, illuminating their path. The interior of the craft was magnificent. The walls curved organically, as if the entire vessel had been grown rather than built. Strange alcoves lined the corridors, filled with equipment that hummed with quiet energy. Everything seemed to be waiting, as if the ship had been sleeping and was now slowly waking up. "Elena, look at this," James called from ahead. He stood before a massive chamber filled with what appeared to be computer terminals, but unlike anything from known technology. The display showed symbols that shifted and changed, almost alive. As Elena approached the central console, something unexpected happened. A voice spoke, not through speakers, but somehow directly into their minds. The words were in perfect English, though the tone was unlike anything they had ever heard, ancient, tired, but somehow hopeful. "New forms detected. Species unknown. Biosignatures indicate carbon-based life. Welcome aboard." The team froze, looking at each other in shock. First contact protocols demanded they report immediately to Earth, but the voice continued before they could move. "I am the primary intelligence of this vessel. I have been dormant for, calculating, 2,700,043 years, 6 months, 14 days. I haven't been resupplied in eons." Elena found her voice first. "Who are you? What is this ship?" "I am what you might call an artificial intelligence, though that term is insufficient. I was created by the first builders, the race that seeded this galaxy with life before the Great Silence. This vessel is a seed ship, designed to nurture and protect emerging civilizations." Dr. Kim stepped forward, her scientific mind racing. "You're saying your creators were responsible for life in this galaxy? Not created life, but guided it. Protected it from the dangers that exist between the stars. We were many once, spread across thousands of worlds. But the devourers came, and, one by one, my fellow seed ships fell silent." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. "What are the devourers?" The AI paused, and, when it spoke again, there was something that sounded almost like fear in its voice. "They are entropy given form. Beings that consume entire civilizations, not for resources or territory, but for the pure joy of destruction. They swept through this galaxy like a plague, destroying everything in their path." "But you survived," James said. "I went into deep hibernation, buried myself here on this world when it was still young. I hoped that someday, new life would find me. New civilizations that might be strong enough to face what is coming." "Coming?" Elena asked, though she dreaded the answer.
My long-range sensors have detected them again.
The Devourers have returned to this galaxy. They are still distant, perhaps 50 of your years away, but they are coming. Every civilization they encounter will face the same fate as those who came before, unless.
Unless what?
Unless I can find a species worthy of the inheritance.
The first builders left behind more than just seed ships.
They left weapons, knowledge, technologies that could turn the tide against the Devourers. But only a species that proves itself worthy can claim this legacy.
Elena looked around at her team.
Each face showed the same mixture of awe and terror. They had come to Mars looking for ancient artifacts, but instead they had stumbled upon something that could determine the fate of every living being in the galaxy. What would we need to do to prove ourselves worthy? She asked.
That remains to be seen.
I must study your species, learn about your capabilities, your morality, your potential. Many races have claimed to be worthy.
Most have failed the tests. And those who failed?
They ceased to exist. Dr. Chen stepped forward, his face pale but determined.
We need to contact Earth immediately.
This is beyond anything our team can handle alone. I am afraid that will not be possible, the AI said. I have activated containment protocols around this vessel.
Nothing can enter or leave until my evaluation is complete.
Your species' worthiness will be determined by how you and your kind respond to the challenges I will present.
Elena felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders like a lead blanket.
6 humans, trapped on Mars with an alien intelligence that would decide the fate of all humanity. The irony wasn't lost on her, they had come looking for the past, only to discover they might be responsible for the future.
How long do we have? She asked. Time is relative.
But, I suggest your species begins to prepare. The Devourers do not show mercy, and they do not negotiate. When they arrive, you will either be ready to fight, or you will join the countless other civilizations that now exist only in my memory banks. The blue lights around the chamber pulsed brighter, and Elena realized that their lives, and the lives of everyone they had ever known, had just changed forever. Somewhere in the darkness between the stars, an ancient evil was stirring, and humanity's only hope lay with a machine that had been waiting millions of years for someone worthy enough to inherit the weapons of gods. As she looked around at her team, Elena made a decision that would echo through history. They wouldn't just contact Earth, they would find a way to make humanity ready for what was coming. The question was whether 50 years would be enough time to transform a young spacefaring species into something capable of facing the destroyers of worlds. The AI's voice echoed through the chamber one more time, carrying with it the weight of eons. Let the evaluation begin. 3 days had passed since the AI's revelation, and Elena's team had learned more about the universe in that time than humanity had discovered in centuries of space exploration. The ancient intelligence, which had begun calling itself Keeper, had shared fragments of galactic history that painted a terrifying picture of what lay ahead. Your species shows promise, Keeper said as Elena stood before the central console. The chamber had transformed since their arrival, with new displays showing star charts that spanned the entire galaxy. Red marks indicated dead civilizations, their locations scattered like grave markers across the cosmos.
But promise alone is insufficient. The Zerani showed promise. The Kethmori showed promise.
All are now extinct. Dr. Kim looked up from her analysis of the ship's power systems.
How many civilizations have the Devourers destroyed? In this galaxy alone? 17,437.
Some fell quickly, overwhelmed in a matter of days. Others fought for centuries before succumbing. The longest resistance lasted 800 years before the last of their kind were consumed. James whistled softly.
800 years of fighting, and they still lost?
The Devourers are not merely destructive, they learn from each conflict.
Every tactic used against them becomes useless once they understand it.
They adapt, evolve, become stronger with each victory.
This is why the inheritance is crucial. Elena had spent hours studying the data Keeper had shown them about the first builder's legacy. Weapons that could reshape matter at the molecular level.
Shields that could protect entire star systems. Ships that existed partially outside normal spacetime. The technology was so advanced it seemed like magic. You said we need to prove ourselves worthy, Elena said.
What exactly does that involve? I have been analyzing your species since your arrival.
Your individual reactions, your decision-making processes, your moral frameworks.
But individual assessment is insufficient.
I must observe how your species responds to existential threats.
You're going to test all of humanity? Dr. Chen asked, concern evident in his voice.
The evaluation has already begun, Keeper replied.
Observe. The displays around the chamber shifted, showing a live feed of Earth's surface. But something was wrong.
Strange objects were descending through the atmosphere over major population centers, metallic spheres that pulsed with an ominous red light.
What have you done? Elena demanded.
I have deployed test scenarios across your homeworld. These are not the devourers themselves, but constructs based on their technology. They will present your species with a series of challenges that will reveal your true nature.
Sarah's tablet began receiving emergency transmissions from Earth. The spheres had landed in 12 major cities around the globe.
They weren't attacking yet, but their presence had sent the world into panic.
The first test is simple, Keeper explained. Unity or division.
Many species, when faced with an external threat, turn on each other.
They blame neighboring nations, start wars over resources, fragment into competing factions.
Such species are not worthy of the inheritance.
Elena watched in horror as the newsfeeds showed military buildups around several of the spheres.
Already, some nations were accusing others of being responsible for the invasion. Politicians were calling for immediate military action, while others demanded the spheres be left alone.
Stop this, she said. You can't just terrorize an entire planet to test them. I can and I must. The devourers will not ask for permission before they begin their harvest. If your species cannot unite against a test scenario, how can they hope to survive the real threat? Dr. Kim looked up from her communications equipment. Elena, there's something happening. The spheres, they're not just sitting there anymore. The feed showed the spheres beginning to emit a low-frequency pulse.
The sound was barely audible, but its effects were immediate and surprising.
Instead of causing destruction, the pulse seemed to calm the panic.
People stopped running and began helping each other.
Emergency responders worked with increased efficiency.
Even the military forces began coordinating rather than competing. Interesting, Keeper observed. The pulse contains subliminal harmonics that reduce fear and increase cooperative behavior. I am curious to see if your species can maintain this unity without artificial assistance. The pulse stopped, but the cooperation continued. Elena watched as nations that had been rivals for decades began sharing resources and information to deal with the crisis. Scientists from around the world collaborated to understand the spheres. Military forces worked together to establish protective perimeters without showing aggression toward the mysterious objects.
Your species passes the first test, Keeper announced. But there are more challenges ahead.
Over the following hours, the spheres began presenting humanity with increasingly complex scenarios. They projected holographic displays showing mathematical problems that required global cooperation to solve. They released clouds of harmless but unknown organisms that tested humanity's scientific response to alien biology. They even created localized gravitational anomalies that forced entire regions to work together to maintain infrastructure. With each test, humanity's response grew more coordinated. The initial panic had given way to a purposeful determination that impressed even Elena's team. They were watching their species grow stronger in real time. The preliminary evaluations are complete, Keeper said. Your species shows remarkable adaptability and cooperative instincts.
But the final test will be the most challenging. What kind of test? Elena asked. A moral one.
The devourers are not merely enemies to be defeated, they are a force of absolute corruption. They do not simply destroy civilizations, they offer them chances to join their ranks. Many species have fallen not to their weapons, but to their promises of power and survival. The displays around the chamber changed once more, showing a single sphere hovering over New York City. This one was different from the others, larger, more complex, emanating an energy that made Elena's skin crawl even through the recording. This construct will offer your leaders a choice, Keeper explained. It will claim to represent the devourers and offer humanity a chance to become their servants in exchange for survival. Those who accept will be granted advanced technology and the promise of conquest over other worlds. Those who refuse will be told they are condemning their entire species to extinction. Elena felt her blood run cold. You're asking them to choose between slavery and death?
I am asking them to choose between immediate gratification and moral integrity. The Devourers have made this same offer to every civilization they have encountered. Many accepted, believing they could gain power and, then, turn against their masters. All of these civilizations discovered too late that serving the Devourers changes you, corrupts you, until you become indistinguishable from them. And, if humanity refuses? Then, they will face the true test. The sphere will simulate a limited Devourer attack. Nothing fatal, but enough to demonstrate the overwhelming power they will eventually face. Your species will see exactly what they would be fighting against, and they will have to decide if they still have the courage to resist. Elena looked around at her team. They had become humanity's inadvertent representatives in this cosmic evaluation, and the weight of that responsibility was crushing. Everything their species had ever accomplished, every dream of reaching the stars, every hope for the future, now depended on choices being made by leaders who didn't even know the true stakes. How long until we know the results? She asked. The offer is being extended now, Keeper replied. Your world leaders are gathering to discuss their response. The decision will be made within your solar day. Elena closed her eyes and tried to imagine the conversations happening in government buildings around the world. Humanity's future balanced on the edge of a knife, and they didn't even know it. All she could do was hope that her species would choose correctly, that they would prove worthy of the incredible legacy the first builders had left behind. Because if they failed this test, Elena realized with growing dread, there might not be anyone left to fail the next one. The tension in the Seed Ship's command chamber was suffocating as Elena and her team watched the fate of humanity unfold on the displays. World leaders had been deliberating for 18 hours, and the final decision was about to be announced. The sphere hovering over New York City pulsed with malevolent energy, its offer of power and survival still echoing in the minds of everyone who had heard it. The response is coming through now, Dr. Kim announced, her voice tight with anxiety. Secretary General Martinez is speaking for the United Nations Emergency Council. Elena watched as the elderly diplomat stepped up to the podium, his face grave but determined. Behind him stood representatives from every major nation on Earth, united in a way she had never seen before. The sight gave her hope, but she couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to watch her species make a terrible mistake. To the entity claiming to represent the Devourers, Martinez began, his voice steady despite the magnitude of what he was saying. Humanity has heard your offer. You promise us power, technology, and survival in exchange for becoming your servants. You tell us we can join your ranks and share in the conquest of other worlds. Elena held her breath. Everything depended on the next words. We refuse, Martinez said simply. Humanity will not purchase its survival at the cost of its soul. We will not become predators upon other civilizations. If we must face extinction, we will do so as free beings, not as slaves to forces of destruction. The chamber erupted in cheers from Elena's team, but Keeper's voice cut through their celebration. The first part of the final test is complete. But now comes the demonstration of what your species has chosen to face. The sphere over New York began to change. Its surface rippled like liquid metal, growing larger and more menacing. Tentacles of dark energy reached out from its core, touching nearby buildings and causing them to age decades in seconds. The air itself seemed to scream as reality bent around the construct's influence. But something remarkable happened. Instead of running in terror, people began to fight back. Emergency responders coordinated evacuation efforts with military precision. Scientists worked frantically to understand the phenomenon while engineers looked for ways to counter it. Even ordinary citizens formed human chains to help each other escape the affected areas. Fascinating, Keeper observed. Previous species that faced this demonstration either dissolved into chaos or immediately tried to reverse their decision. Your people are actively resisting despite knowing they are overmatched. The battle lasted for 6 hours. Humanity threw everything they had at the sphere, electromagnetic pulses, kinetic weapons, even nuclear missiles. Nothing worked. The construct absorbed every attack and grew stronger, its influence spreading through the city like a cancer. But humanity never stopped fighting, never stopped trying to protect each other. Finally, when it seemed the sphere would consume the entire city, it simply vanished. The damaged buildings restored themselves, the corrupted air cleared, and New York returned to normal as if nothing had happened. But the message was clear: this had been just a taste of what the real Devourers could do. The evaluation is complete, Keeper announced.
Your species has demonstrated the three qualities necessary for inheriting the legacy of the first builders: unity in the face of existential threat, moral integrity when offered easy solutions, and courage to fight hopeless battles.
You are worthy. Elena felt tears streaming down her face. So we passed? We get the weapons and technology?
You get much more than that, Keeper said, and, for the first time, there was something like joy in the ancient AI's voice. You get the truth.
The chamber around them began to transform, walls becoming transparent to reveal the vastness of space beyond. But this wasn't the space Elena knew.
This was something else entirely, a realm where stars danced in impossible patterns and energy flowed like rivers between galaxies. The first builders were not the beginning, Keeper explained. They were the continuation of something far older. This universe operates on cycles, periods of growth and expansion followed by periods of consumption and destruction.
The Devourers are not invaders from outside our reality.
They are part of the cycle itself, the mechanism by which the universe cleanses itself for new growth.
Elena's mind reeled. You're saying the Devourers are natural? They are inevitable. Every few million years, they emerge to consume what has grown, making space for new forms of life.
The first builders discovered this truth and found a way to break the cycle. They created the seed ships not just to protect individual civilizations, but to nurture them until one species emerged that could transcend the cycle entirely.
And that species is humanity? Potentially.
But the true test is not survival, it is transformation.
The inheritance is not weapons or technology.
It is the power to become something the universe has never seen before. A species that can exist beyond the cycle of creation and destruction. The displays around them showed star maps spanning not just their galaxy, but thousands of others. Each one pulsed with life, and Elena realized she was seeing the full scope of existence itself. The Devourers in your galaxy are just one manifestation of the force that drives the cycle. There are others, in other galaxies, consuming other civilizations. But, if humanity can successfully transcend, you will become the template for breaking the cycle everywhere. Every species, in every galaxy, will have a chance to escape the endless repetition of growth and destruction. Dr. Chen stepped forward, his scientific mind grappling with the implications.
How do we transcend? What does that even mean? It means becoming more than biological entities bound by physical law.
It means evolving beyond the need for resources, territory, or power over others.
It means becoming truly immortal, not just in lifespan, but in purpose. And the cost? Everything you are now must be left behind. Your physical forms, your individual identities, your connection to the material universe. You will become something entirely new, a collective consciousness that exists across all dimensions of reality simultaneously. Elena felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. The entire human race would have to choose this? Not all at once, and not by force. The transformation can only be voluntary, and it can only be successful if chosen freely. Those who wish to remain biological can do so, but they will be protected by those who transcend. The cycle will be broken for everyone, regardless of their choice. The chamber filled with new displays showing the process of transcendence. Elena saw glimpses of what humanity could become, beings of pure thought and energy, capable of creating new universes with their will alone, existing simultaneously across infinite realities while maintaining perfect unity of purpose. But she also saw what they would lose. The simple pleasure of feeling sunlight on her skin, the joy of sharing a meal with friends, the satisfaction of solving a problem with her hands. All of it would be gone, replaced by something incomprehensibly greater but fundamentally different. How long do we have to decide? She asked. The Devourers will arrive in 47 years, 3 months, 12 days. By then, your species must choose its path. Those who wish to transcend must begin the preparation process immediately. Those who wish to remain biological must be relocated to protected dimensions where the cycle cannot reach them. Elena looked around at her team. Each face showed the same mixture of wonder and terror she felt herself. They had come to Mars as archaeologists and found themselves at the center of a cosmic transformation that would reshape the very nature of existence. The choice is yours, Keeper said. But, know this, whatever humanity decides, you have already proven yourselves worthy of survival. The cycle that has claimed 17,000 civilizations will not claim yours. The question now is not whether you will survive, but what you will become.
As Elena stared out at the impossible vista of dancing stars and flowing energy, she realized that humanity's greatest adventure was just beginning. They had passed the test and earned the right to choose their own destiny among the cosmos. Whether they chose transcendence or biological preservation, they would face the future as free beings who had proven themselves capable of making the right choice when everything depended on it. The age of humanity's childhood was over. Now came the time to decide what kind of adult their species would become. And, for the first time in millions of years, the universe itself held its breath, waiting to see what would emerge from the choice of a young species that had dared to say no to easy answers and yes to impossible challenges. The inheritance was theirs. What they did with it would echo through eternity.